hate to be a downer, but we are completely and utterly screwed. Oh, I wore that well. Maybe I don't hate being a downer. Ooh, maybe I shouldn't feel so much pressure to put a positive spin on things.
Happy Pride Month, Gothamites. Welcome to another episode of the Arkham Sessions. My name is Brian Ward. With me, as always, the psychologist to the superheroes, superheroines, and supervillains of Gotham City and beyond. She's Dr. Drea Letamendi. Hello, Drea.
Hi, Brian. It's nice to be here with you.
Nice to be here with you. Always a pleasure, especially when we get to talk about something.
Don't act so surprised.
What? Why? Oh, that it's
you
a pleasure?
You seem a little surprised.
Oh, you know, I just assume no one really cares if they're here with me. So,
well, I do.
I appreciate that.
I'm also really glad that folks are joining us and listening to the show. It can be really heavy and overwhelming right now. We hope to bring some levity, some lightheartedness, a little bit of psychology, a little bit of mental health, and I don't want to say shenanigans, but the show we're covering has some shenanigans. So a little bit of shenanigans.
And as you've said before, you'll shenan once.
I won't shenan again.
But you won't shenan again.
But just the one time. But truly, it's a way for us to just spend a little bit of time with each other, take a breath, hopefully learn something, but definitely be entertained.
Yep.
And I'm just very grateful that we have a community and that, I know folks are doing the best they can to just be present and work as hard as they're working. And if you need a break, maybe that's what we're a part of. So thank you so much for inviting us into your cars, your homes, the streets, wherever it is you listen to us.
Very cool. Also, we have a pretty important announcement that we'll be making at the end of the show, everyone. So stick around. But it specifically relates to the top 3 choices as decided by our Discord for what we're going to cover next.
Sure. And if you're a Discord member, it's not really going to be a surprise. So.
Right. Because they came in and sort of blew all the competition out of the water. There were 3 very distinct choices.
Yes, it's overwhelmingly clear.
Before we talk about that later on, just as a reminder for folks, why don't you tell them what the 5 original semi-finalists were?
Yes. So we had a poll on Discord to ask everyone what we should cover for the next season of the Arkham Sessions. I had nominated 5 very strong competitors. Alien Earth. I almost said who voted for what.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not going to say the results.
Don't do that.
Alien Earth on FX, Gargoyles on Disney+, Andor on Disney+, Ironheart on Disney+, X-Men the Animated Series Season 2, the OG, also Disney+. This is not an endorsement for Disney+.
Very Disney Plus heavy lineup there. Okay.
It is what it is.
And then if you stick around to the end of the show, we will talk about who took the top 3 places, because after today, you will have 2 weeks to go to Patreon, patreon.com/Arkham Sessions, and donate for $3. You'll be able to decide what we cover next out of those 3, and you'll find out the winner in the next episode. So I am very excited. I think, though, we should probably just jump right in to Harley Quinn. It's the penultimate episode of season 1, not available on Disney Plus, available on Max.
Soon to be HBO Max.
Soon to be HBO. Yeah, it's going back. They know where their bread is buttered. This one's called The Devil's Snare. Drea, where were we in the last episode? We rescued Poison Ivy,
right,
from the clutches of Scarecrow and his henchmen. She managed to escape, but we found out that Poison Ivy is her deepest fear. And we found out why. We basically found out that Ivy is terrified of sort of giving herself over 100% to people who will inevitably end up burning her in the end. It's a fear that a lot of people have. I wouldn't blame anyone. And Harley has to very slowly earn her way back into the trust and good graces of Poison Ivy, but they don't have time for that because they're still a battling.
There are a number of threats in Gotham City now because Scarecrow is still on the loose. Mm-hmm. There are we open up the episode to these anthropomorphized trees who are attacking everybody in the park.
Which you think would be fine because you got Poison Ivy on your side.
She's unable to subdue them. And is that because she was experimented on by Scarecrow? Or is that because these are not...
Are you asking me?
Yeah, no, I really don't know.
No, it's revealed later on why she can't.
Oh, I may have missed that. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
But yeah. She can't. She's basically powerless against these very horrible trees that are terrorizing the park and its citizens. We have the Justice League, not necessarily a threat, but the Justice League shows up, and the counterpart threat with them is the return of Queen of
Fables.
I almost called her Queen of Hearts.
Yes.
She's a little forgettable.
Definitely not.
Queen of Fables.
Queen of Fables.
And she has teamed up with the Joker.
And she is the reason for the trees because they are fairy tale trees.
Oh, right.
And therefore cannot be controlled by Ivy.
Yes. There's a number of manifestations that are more fantastical, illusionary. So Poison Ivy can't really connect to these dream state beings, even though they're shaped like trees. Yeah, I sort of miss that. I think like stepping back a little bit and talking about where we're at with this season of Harley Quinn, while there have been some really strong episodes that highlight the dynamic of the relationships, especially between Poison Ivy and Harley and the Joker, and even a little bit of Batman sprinkled in, and the Commissioner
and Gordon
sprinkled in. I'm finding a little bit of a repetitive theme here, or just a sense that, I get that they want to just show the crew facing off against these terrors and various the antagonists, these folks, the Legion of Doom and all these people that could create good stories. But I think it just feels lacking now. Like, where is this all
We're only a
supposed to be
couple
going?
of episodes away from the last Queen of Fables episode, and now she's already back exacting revenge. As we all know, Ivy made the choice not to kill her in the one episode, and now that has come back to haunt them as Queen of Fables has teamed up with the Joker. If anything, I am more tired of the Joker. I am very tired of the constant barrage of this really comes back to him. And I have been told by a good number of people that seasons 2 and beyond are much better in that regard, and that they're very strong episodes and very strong seasons. I'm just dying to get away from the Joker for a little bit. The fact that the majority of this episode went by and we didn't even know the Joker was behind much of this. We should say that the Legion of Doom was believed to be behind it because we found that they were sort of financing Scarecrow's attack and kidnapping of Poison Ivy and whatever he was doing with that stuff, to the degree that once they rescued her and once they began to win against the trees to begin with, Poison Ivy commandeers a tank that was supplied overzealously by Commissioner Gordon. She announces her resignation from the Legion of Doom, and right before she can fire upon the headquarters, it explodes, And from the rubble emerges a gigantic tower with a large head of the Joker sitting atop it. So not only did he build the tower that he recommended building early on in the season after she'd become a member of the Legion, but he ended up taking her advice and had it come up from the ground. So maybe not all of her ideas were bad in the Joker's eyes, but he comes out and says that he has done this. He has destroyed the Legion of Doom for one reason, and that's because they now will let anyone in. And of course, he's referring to Poison Ivy. Oh, I'm sorry, Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn.
And so that's where we are now, fighting Poison Ivy through the use of specialized water hose, ends up growing as big as the gigantic trees, and she ends up taking them on. She ends up begrudgingly, but she has to kill them, some of whom are children. That she acknowledges once.
Right, but they're not real trees.
Well, we don't know that.
You think
it's very possible that the Queen of Fables has simply turned trees into.
Oh, I see.
We don't know.
These aren't just kind of like dream-like.
They could be
beings.
They could be. We didn't really see where they came from, but we do know that she's behind them, and she does have a tendency to just unleash. Like, it's not like she would see a wolf on the side of the road and make that the big bad wolf. She is bringing the big bad wolf out of a storybook. So presumably these trees are probably storybook trees, but she feels bad about killing them anyway. And when she looks down at the rings of one of them and realizes that it's a baby tree, she's like, oh, it's just a child. So she still feels bad for mutilating and destroying these trees.
Well, not for nothing, this episode in particular, while I feel like we're kind of revisiting old themes and it's getting a little repetitive, it's fun. It introduces, because of Queen of Fables, it introduces a lot of new characters. Like this episode is packed with a lot of different characters. One of them, well, many of them are from fairy tales, but one of them is the giant from Jack and the Beanstalk.
Yes.
And that was fun. But did you notice that he's
a redhead? Well, did you notice that the giant in Jack and the Beanstalk is often presented as a redhead? If I'm not mistaken. I think I've seen other animated movies or other films where they have given him sort of a tuft of reddish hair. Now, I know the Disney one was a black hair, right? I think he had black hair and a beard.
You mean the one with Mickey?
Yeah. I think, if I remember correctly, and maybe sort of a reddish nose. Are you looking it up?
I am looking it up right now because I remember the giant as being redheaded in that, but I'm looking it up right now.
He may have been redheaded, but I thought he had black hair.
Oh my.
Very red hair?
Like.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's actually the one that I've been thinking of as part of a different animated movie, but I guess not. I guess
Willie the Giant. But isn't Willie the Giant kind of sweet at the end? Like, he has a temper, but no, am I misremembering?
Aren't they always... And when you say sweet, if you're just saying oafish, like simple,
that's what
simple, dumb, ogreish giant that turns out to be a kind of character, then that also tracks for a redhead.
There are also, why are there Christmas Carol ornaments for this character? What is happening?
Oh,
that is so.
Oh, is he also the Ghost of Christmas Past in the animated Mickey A Christmas Carol?
He's in a set of toys for Mickey's Christmas Carol, and he's one of 3 action figures for the ghosts.
Anyone who is not able to see this on YouTube,
oh my gosh. And it's
that's exactly what he looks like. But
I was going to buy it for you, Brian, but they're all out of stock. Apparently, this is a very exclusive.
I'm willing to bet
to
because of the fact that he's a redhead and because he looks like that. I'm willing to bet that they never even stocked it to begin with. They're like, no one's going to buy it.
No, but it's a set of 3. So it's Jiminy Cricket, Willie the Giant, and then the the wolf. He's not a wolf. He's a character that is often the antagonist to Mickey, like big wolf guy.
I don't know who you're talking about. I can't see it, but I'm glad that we're using a lot of this time as filler because this particular episode, not a whole lot of psychological science, but this is where we are. So the giant for the Jack and the Beanstalk moment in this episode of Harley Quinn, as seen on Max, not Disney Plus, is a redhead. Yeah. So.
All right. So. The ending of this episode we will touch on because something big happens and this is a bit of a 2-parter. So we'll mention how this ends. But something that I do want to uplift is, amidst the action and all of the dangerousness of this episode with the threat of the Scarecrow being in Gotham, the Justice League coming and actually trying to detain Harley Quinn and her crew, thinking that Poison Ivy did all of this. They try to put her crew in the Phantom Zone. Amidst all this, we once again have these moments between Harley and Poison Ivy that continue to tease apart, kind of like disentangle some of the complexities of the relationship and their stuck points.
Right.
So up till this point, Poison Ivy has made it clear that she's been disappointed in Harley's commitment to their friendship, that Harley has disappointed her, let her down, hasn't been really reliable as a friend. And then in this episode, Poison Ivy asks Kite Man for help. And so he swoops down in his kite. It's actually quite great. And Harley is surprised that they're dating. Harley didn't know that Poison Ivy and Kite Man were dating.
I mean, she's going so far. She's surprised that Ivy has Kite Man's phone number in her cell, or that she's memorized his phone number.
So maybe, I know we have this clip where amidst all this, Harley recognizes that there's something about her friend, a pretty important thing about her friend that she doesn't know.
Yep. Let's play it here.
You're dating Kite Man? Why? You love him?
I haven't said, I love you to him. But yeah, I love him a little.
How do we not know about this?
Because you never asked. I mean, it's like, if it's not about you, you're not interested. I wasn't even trying very hard to keep it a secret. I kept coming home, reeking of kite, leaves in my hair. Didn't you ever think that was weird?
You seriously didn't know, Quinn?
So it's interesting because everyone else in the crew, all the other friends, totally know that they're dating, and it is kind of an essential thing. It's something that's important to Poison Ivy and Harley.
They don't just know, because knowing implies that maybe they found out. Yeah. They all observed obvious signs that Ivy was dating Kite Man. Mm-hmm. And I think what that's saying is that Harley has been so self-centered. She has not been even as observant as her colleagues.
Right. Ostensibly colleagues who themselves are flighty and have, their own flaws and aren't exactly the best of friends, but
also don't care. They don't necessarily care if Ivy is dating someone. Whereas as Ivy's best friend, Harley should absolutely care and be aware and notice.
Right.
Yeah.
So it made me wonder about the level of narcissism that Harley may have just in terms of her personality traits. And I think we've visited or talked about narcissism a bit before, but it made me think about the difference between narcissism and some other types of attachment styles or presentations or actual disorders. And I think narcissism right now is very ubiquitous. Everyone is posting about narcissism and observing relationships or people or high profile influencers or high profile celebs they believe to be narcissistic. So it's kind of in our world. But narcissism, in terms of a disorder, what we call narcissistic personality disorder, is very rare. This is like less than 1% of the population. This is where someone's overt traits of putting themselves first and not recognizing other people's needs and having little remorse and little empathy for others, and always, having this kind of manipulative style. It's when you have those core features that really interfere with their functioning. It doesn't mean, though, that the rest of us aren't narcissistic,
right.
That narcissism operates on this continuum, and that on the one end of the continuum, having some trait or some elements of narcissism I would even argue, could be kind of good for us. So for instance, being confident in yourself that you have a particular skill,
sure.
Being able to be self-motivated to overcome a challenge, to be able to believe that you're skilled in a unique way. Like, I do think that some level of narcissism relates to another trait we've talked about, which is self-determination. So it's almost like there's a healthy, just like anything, right? There's a healthy dose of this, but we're seeing this in Harley where it actually doesn't seem like it's healthy, that it's actually interfering with her relationships and her, I want to say, like, unawareness of it can kind of, make it a bit worse. So along that continuum that I'm referring to, somewhere in the middle is where we would consider like attachment styles. So when people wonder about narcissism, like what causes narcissism, sometimes it's an inherent personality style, but sometimes it's impacted by experiences of abuse, of relationships that have created low self-esteem and low sense of self, or deteriorated or fragile sense of self. But sometimes there's attachment styles that pretty much like develop after, let's say with Harley and Joker, they had a very abusive relationship where, we can probably even dedicate a whole episode to what's going on with him. But what's going on with her, while I don't believe it's a personality disorder or narcissism necessarily, I think it has a lot to do with attachment style based on her previous relationships. And an avoidant attachment style means that Harley has been impacted by those previous relationships so much that now she's kind of closing herself off so that she's not hurt by other people, right? And Poison Ivy is someone she cares about. She wants closeness. She wants a sense of intimacy. So that's exactly the kind of person that she may detach from, close herself off from, and not even recognize Poison Ivy's needs because of this kind of like psychological barrier that she has. And the result is that that other person wonders, like, do you even care about other people? Do you care about other people's needs? Are you even, are you even a caring person?
So say more about that. What differentiate it between, I guess my question is, based on what you've seen of Harley, would you say that that's the case, that she is closing herself off to protect herself and her own emotions? Or is it simply that, because whenever we see Harley away from the group, I would almost think that if she were trying to protect herself, we would see more of that. We would see more of her want to pay attention, but actively close herself off. Whereas in other scenes where she's been alone, she has all but ignored the group altogether, including Ivy. So, do you think that Ivy or that Harley is protecting herself? Or do you think that she is in danger of being one of those people who just genuinely doesn't think about other people?
I mean, people with this avoidant attachment style dismiss the importance of closeness and intimacy But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're manipulative. It doesn't mean that they're exploitative, that those are the intentions behind that. I'm not sure. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I guess what you were saying before made me think that maybe there was an ulterior motive to not considering her friends. And that was to protect herself, to keep herself at arm's length so that if any of them let her down the way that the Joker did, or betrayed her or abandoned her the way that the Joker did, she wouldn't be so hurt. Yeah. And yet I just see her as being laser focused on the Joker.
Right.
To the degree that she doesn't even really see or pay attention to those around her. And so I find myself wondering if she's so laser focused on another initiative, do you really think she's guarding her heart?
I think that sometimes I don't know how this is going to come across, but we give people, we make a lot of assumptions about their intentions, about their motivations, like that somebody sets out to behave this way or that they're making a determined decision. In other words, how I would observe and I guess analyze this, I would wonder more about some schema that she's operating with. So there are thought patterns, thinking patterns at her core that she may not have full awareness of in terms of like her day-to-day decision making, where she may feel she's doing the right thing. She feels a sense of desire to be social, a desire to have social support in her crew, and specifically from Poison Ivy, a desire to be a desire to seek and have approval from high level people of authority like the Joker and like the Legion of Doom. But I guess answering your question directly, I'm not sure that it's in her consciousness, like an awareness that she's neglecting Poison Ivy in this way, that she's not tuning into Poison Ivy's needs. Yeah,
because even when they have those conversations, Harley is taken off guard and was like, "What do you mean I betrayed you? I was doing it for this.
Totally
I did this." And yeah.
And I think like the reason I'm making this distinction about individuals with this extreme version of narcissism, and then other people with maybe some levels of self-centered thinking and history of abuse, history of trauma that keeps them from really recognizing the needs of other people. It's because a lot of us have these people in our lives. Like the Harley Quinn version, a lot of us have that in our lives. I think everyone can point to someone they can think of in their life who isn't checking in on them, or may have missed a glaring clue that their friend is not doing well, or their friend may not be doing well. And they wonder, why is this person not thinking about me right now? Or why is this person focused on other things that are so trivial, or focused on their own situation and not on mine? Mm-hmm. And I want to normalize that a little bit, because those feelings are valid, and it's a real sense of rupture in a relationship when we feel that way, especially if we feel that person consistently lets us down that way and consistently isn't thinking about our needs and when we're not okay. And yet it's a perspective taking, because I think as we both are saying, Harley isn't intentionally, I don't believe Harley is sitting there thinking like, oh no, I've got to really protect myself. I can't be as close and as connected to my friend. Mm-hmm. It's more of a schema that's operating, where patterns of thinking and behavior are driven by what has helped and what has hurt in the past. Right. So it almost becomes a natural way of being, something that is almost muscle memory that people may not even be aware of. And this is why people go to therapy, because they may need someone, a third party, an objective figure, to say, hey, I'm noticing these patterns. Yeah. Are you noticing these patterns? Yeah. And the person a lot of times will say, oh, I'm not noticing these patterns, because I'm just kind of, when you're in the middle of it, you may not recognize it.
I'm thinking about, and I think it's funny that you brought up the narcissism, because I'm thinking specifically about that clip that has run around. There was a show that you were watching, the couples therapy show, where there was the real couples therapist and the real sessions. And there's the one classic video that keeps going around the internet of the one episode with the guy who is narcissistic, and the therapist is like, do you realize that what you're saying, that you belittle the other things that the other people are saying at any given moment, that why is it so devastating if they get something wrong? And he's like, it's not devastating.
I've seen this
and then
clip.
both of the women, the doctor and the partner, both start laughing, and they're like, you just did it again. And he's like, well, it's not devastating. That's
a perfect clip to emphasize. Now, I don't know if he has narcissism,
right,
but that's a perfect clip to emphasize just the lack of self-reflection and introspection that some people have. And that's okay. That's why they're in therapy. That's why you need a therapist to say, like, wait, hold on. Do you realize what it is that you're doing in this very moment?
Yeah, she's noticing the pattern, and he continues to dismiss it, which is precisely why he's there to begin with.
And so that's what's happening with Harley, where Poison Ivy is saying, hey, you are not tuning in to what's going on with me. And Harley continues to be somewhat lacking that reflective and perspective taking stance on it. And even to some degree, doubling down on like, well, but I rescued you. Yeah. I've been out here helping you. I've looked like I'm every day is catastrophe because we're constantly fighting. We're constantly defending our turf. We're constantly trying to get into the Legion of Doom. But amidst all that noise, she's not actually paying attention to her friend.
Right.
So no, my short answer to you is no. I don't think that she's intentionally, directly trying to create space between them.
Yeah.
I think that she's relying on just a set of patterns that have kept her safe.
Right.
And it's just sort of
her
way of being.
Yeah.
And, the question now is, can she change her way of being after a dynamic has been set up between her and her previous relationships? And let's also take into account, now we know about her parents' relationship with her. And narcissism, and some level of this avoidant attachment can come from that kind of abusive parenting where someone wants to be autonomous, they want to individuate, they want to just be self-reliant, and so they think less about other people's needs.
Right. I think one of the things that I liked most about this episode was the fact that we learned a lot more about Poison Ivy by way of Wonder Woman's lasso of truth. Which was that when Superman and Wonder Woman were blaming Harley and her crew for unleashing the trees simply because Ivy typically has the ability to control them and often wreaks havoc with plant life, Ivy says, use your lasso of truth and just ask me if I did, because I promise I'm not lying about this. I'm not controlling this. And Wonder Woman puts the lasso of truth on her. And there we learn that not only is she not controlling the trees, and not only does she not know who is controlling the trees, she also secretly likes monster truck rallies. She secretly hates paper straws. There were a number of little things in there that were very telling, where it's like, oh, yes, of course she's rigid in her beliefs, but there are even beliefs that are a little too far, even for the eco-terrorist known as Poison Ivy. Yeah. But she...
Well, it humanizes her.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was
and that she has to keep these things secret, because if she doesn't, then it completely negates her cause.
I actually like her better as a main character than Harley Quinn. This episode, we did spend a lot more time with Poison Ivy, and I guess she's more likable. To me, she's actually deeply interesting, more rich. Her personality, to me, is just more layered.
Yeah.
And I feel almost like I'm getting, and it's interesting because we just talked about how Harley Quinn has this attachment style. As an audience member, she's now repelling me. Like, I don't want to be spending as much time with Harley Quinn. Now, look, this is not a real person. It's like, I'm talking about a mediated relationship here between me and Harley Quinn. But like, I have now found that her scenes almost make me want to like roll my eyes or avoid her or just like go to another story. And I think that if I were to be extra analytical about this, I'd say that in real life, if she were a real person, that's what would happen to other people in her life. They would avoid her. They would find her to be toxic. They would roll their eyes about how much she goes back in these patterns. And so, like, in a way, she's become a very realistic character.
Yeah. And I would say Ivy is being positioned as a flip side of the coin.
Sure.
Where she too has typically cut herself off from society. She tends to detach herself from human beings because of how horrible we are as a culture. She has a tendency to be a loner. She has a tendency to do things that could be perceived as absolutely horrible because she has a cause. But then when you actually boil it down, she's kind of an interesting person.
Yeah.
The more we boil down into Harley, and by the way, I'll never forgive anyone for Harley Ivy, just the two Y's, I guess, that are just, they just confuse me. The more we boil down Harley's character, the less interesting she is to me. Which I didn't think would be the case. I thought I would find her more interesting.
Right.
But there hasn't been the same level of growth and just openness that we've seen from some of these other characters.
So far. And in fairness, many of our listeners have said things get much better.
Yeah, they say keep going.
In the series.
And I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will at some point.
Yeah.
Will it be what we cover next? Don't know yet. But
it won't be, because that's not a part of the list.
Look, just trying to keep people engaged to the end of the episode. What did you think about this episode? Is it the kind of episode that was necessary simply because we needed something to be less character driven and more plot motivated, given that it's the penultimate episode of the first season? Is that why you and I both sort of felt detached from this episode?
I mean, it's a lot of fun, and the writers give an opportunity for characters that we love: the Justice League, Wonder Woman, Batman, the Commissioner. You've got the return of a fun character who uses magic. So it's a lot of fun. For our purposes, it didn't introduce and enrich us much further. Mm-hmm. So maybe the very last episode that we cover will be overwhelmingly curious. But I want to end this season of the Arkham Sessions in a great place as far as being able to look at the Harley Quinn series, at least the first season, and give some kind of narrative here where we're able to have learning moments. Yeah. And I do think there are a couple of ideas and themes that came from the series that have helped launch some important conversations that we've had on our show.
For sure. Like, I wouldn't call the season itself a wash. I think we've learned a lot about this season.
Yeah.
And I think that this has been a really successful dive into the Harley Quinn series. Unlike, say, for a long time, our listeners were telling us we absolutely have to go watch Batman Beyond. But we got through like 6 episodes of Batman Beyond, and I think the only one we really had anything to talk about psychologically speaking was the first episode. Mm. And really, that was just the beginning of the first episode when Batman felt the need to pick up a handgun. Right. Aside from that, they were all very fun action-adventure series episodes, but I wouldn't call any of them enriching when it comes to the conversation about mental health and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I kind of felt this episode, even though this episode had a couple of little moments that were fun and that you could grab onto, for the most part, you're basically just watching people fight trees.
Yeah.
And other, although I will, I do appreciate the coincidence and even irony, because we haven't talked about this. This is where the cliffhanger comes in.
Okay.
As the giant Poison Ivy has defeated the trees, she picks up little Harley, and the two of them have their moment of reconciliation, and they begin to laugh together when suddenly a gigantic bolt goes through Ivy's chest, and as she's gushing green blood, she shrinks down to normal level, and we believe that we have lost Poison Ivy, that she has been killed. The coincidence and the irony being the person who fired that spear-like bolt is the Joker, played by Alan Tudyk, who as Wash was speared through the chest at the end of Serenity.
Where are you going with this?
And so we get to watch a beloved character, a beloved character actor who played a character who died the same way, do the same thing to the character you and I both love in this particular series.
Wait, I thought Alan Tudyk played Clayface.
He plays them both.
He plays them both?
He plays them both.
Wow.
He is.
Okay.
It's
What
like
a
we're watching The
treasure.
Simpsons, Drea. There are people on here playing multiple characters,
Okay,
and he is
fair.
playing both Clayface and the Joker.
So this episode ends in a cliffhanger. Now, it's a little less powerful because we've seen Poison Ivy in other future episodes. I haven't watched.
I haven't.
Well, I haven't watched the other seasons, but I've seen
Thanks.
ads for them. It's clear that she's around. So I wasn't really that concerned.
Jeez,
I wasn't that concerned.
Spoilers.
All right. Well, it's time.
It's time, Drea.
It's time to reveal. And one of the reasons that it's so important that people participate, go out and vote, is that it determines our conversations,
Our
right?
future,
So
what we're going to cover next.
We're wanting folks to choose something that.
And we are putting our
sense to them.
future and these conversations into the hands of other people, because as we've said, we don't always know what these shows are going to be like.
Right.
So we do not know just how rich these conversations are going to be. We are relying on you folks, the listeners and viewers, for those of you on YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. We're relying on our audience to really steer these conversations into meaningful ways.
So here are the top 3 choices based on the Discord vote. Gargoyles on Disney Plus,
Okay.
Andor on Disney Plus,
Okay.
and X-Men the Animated Series Season 2 on Disney Plus are the 3 finalists.
Wow, so that's interesting. So with Andor, we would be covering the complete series because we've already put up one episode prior.
Yeah.
We would just have to finish, and there's a lot to talk about in Andor. And then with
Okay, so I've never seen Gargoyles.
with
So
Gargoyles, that's one of those
exciting.
questions. We don't know.
Yeah.
We were told by a lot of people this is a show we absolutely have to watch. And so I am excited by that possibility.
So what do people need to do? So what's next?
You got to go to arkhamsessions.com. I'm sorry, you got to go to patreon.com/Arkham Sessions. Join the $3 tier. As of the moment that you are listening to this poll will be live on our Patreon. And those paying members, $3 or more, will get an opportunity to decide what we cover next. And you have 2 weeks from...
Plenty of time.
2 weeks from this weekend to decide.
Okay.
And then you're all going to find out what we're covering in our next episode, which is the finale of Harley Quinn season 1. Are you at all... I know you're excited about them, But
Yes.
are you like...
No, I'm excited about all of them.
Yeah.
And I will say that our next season will probably kick off after a fun summer mid-season.
Like a little hiatus.
Special.
We'll
I don't know what to call it.
There's a
like
possibility
a
that we
summer special.
bridge our next two, our this season with our next season with a couple of fun little additional things as we've tended to do.
Which is
in the
all
past.
to say, if the winner isn't what some folks are going to vote, some folks are going to potentially want it to go one way. If the winner isn't what you voted for or what you expected, we're covering other things. So sometimes we'll cover movies. Sometimes we'll cover something that everyone's watching in the moment. When Thunderbolts came out, we took a pause on Harley Quinn and we covered Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
Superman's coming up.
Superman's
Fantastic Four's
coming
coming up.
Fantastic
So
Four.
We might be sprinkling in some of those other episodes.
Yeah.
And our next season will probably start in the fall.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. I'm very excited. Drea, until then, why don't you tell the good folks where they can find you online?
You can find me on my website, Dr. Drea Psychology, or on social media at Dr. Drea Psychology.
Great. I am found on Instagram at B_Ward028. You can find us both on Instagram at the Arkham Sessions. You can email us arkhamsessions@gmail.com. Come follow us on Facebook. Follow our friends over at Fanbase Press. And again, patreon.com/Arkham Sessions, and join us on our Discord. Drea, why don't you tell them where they can find us on Discord?
Well, you can go to the Instagram account and find
Right
the
there.
Discord link there
Yep.
in the bio.
Do it. Join us. Help the conversation continue. All right, I just want to thank some of our Patreon members who have made this episode and all of our episodes possible. Mike Ficklin, Dr. Jerome Anderson, Antonio Lopez, Todd Stashwick, Hero's Journey Fitness, Brian Kerr, Trevor Schwartz, Swaris Ali, Mark Pepper, Frank Muller, SK, and Cardboard Clown. Thank you all so much for your help in making these episodes possible. Drea, this has been a lot of fun. Everyone, be safe out there, especially this weekend. Lots of stuff happening. And I hope that you all join us for our next episode. Till then, I'm Brian Ward.
I'm Dr. Drea Letamendi.
And together we are
The Arkham Sessions.